You never again have to believe that circumstances outside of you control your life. You never again have to believe that it is wrong to want. You never again have to believe that some great power outside yourself is pulling the strings, or that anyone or anything other than you is in control. You never again have to be afraid of them, or it, no matter who or what they may be, unless you so choose. So how did we get in this mess? You got it. More than 6 billion people, plus however many more there have been over countless centuries, being born into vulnerable, lackful, fearful vibrations, all focusing on what they don't want and getting more of it. It was never intended to be that way, but in our anxious state of needing to find a reason why things never seemed to go the way we wanted them to, we figured it had to be the fault of some factor separate from us: the government, the economy, our boss, our marriage, our background, our education, our rotten luck, even God. Or maybe it was because we weren't worthy, didn't measure up, were too filled with sins, hadn't been fully put to the test, or had not in some way or other paid our rightful dues. The reality, the real reality, is that we are already worthy, there is no test to pass, and sin is nothing but a man-made abomination to foster control by others. The real reality is we have come here to thrive, and prosper, and live this grand human experience in light-hearted joy, not in struggle and pain. We have come here to have fun while we learn, to grow without suffering, and to harvest our desires in the absolute knowledge that we can have it all once we learn how to handle our energies, meaning, our emotions. We came here with a guaranteed freedom of choice mandated by the very nature of our existence. The time has come for us to exercise that birthright. We are caught in no one's web. We are bound by no circumstance. We are victims of no conditions. Rather, we are beings who possess the sacred ability to implement any outlandish desire our limitless minds can concoct, for we possess unregulated, unrestricted, uncontested freedom of choice, no matter what those choices may be. It's wake-up time. It's time we remembered how to make those choices happen. It's time to take our heads out of the sand and accept that it's no accident we get what we get in life. It's time for us to stop creating from the improper default setting and remember the secrets of the ancient wisdom we once knew so well before recorded history, wisdom that allowed us to create our passions with simple intent. It is time. You deserve it all. You deserve to have all of your aspirations realized, no matter what they may be. You have only to want it and feel it, and a whole new life of extraordinary happiness will be yours. Not can be, will be. That is a cosmic guarantee. Chapter 2, Our Magic Genie. The process of creation is the same everywhere, whether it's a star system or designer genes. Give thought to something you've infused with the appropriate feeling, which creates the appropriate vibration, and here it comes. All the positive thoughts in the world won't make any difference, nor being a good person with a generous heart, nor praying, visualizing, and meditating till dawn, nor even knocking our heads against countless stone walls in our fervent attempts to capture lifelong dreams. None of that will create a thing until we launch the magnetic vibration to pull those dreams in through our infallible magic genie called feelings, that electromagnetic authority of which dreams are made. Just two kinds. You can take every book ever written on the subject of feelings and emotions, every class ever taught on the dark Freudian mysteries of the mind, every counseling group that has ever attempted to get us in touch with that obscure inner child, and anyone else trying to show us how to emancipate those frightening things we call feelings, and boil all the fancy techniques down to one simple remedy for creating an abundant and fulfilling life. Learn to identify a good feeling from a bad feeling. That's it. Learn to do that and you've got the course made. You can create anything your heart desires. This is the secret that transforms us into deliberate creators instead of creators by accident. This is the power that changes wishful thinking into actuality, the simple art of being able to identify a good feeling from a bad one. That's all there is to it. End of lesson. Don't worry, these kinds of feelings have nothing to do with digging up garbage from your past, or confronting whatever bogeymen might be currently residing in your emotional closet. They're just the garden variety type of feelings we have all day long. But once you learn to keep track of which ones feel good and which ones feel less than good, you're home free. This is the nitty-gritty. This is what good luck is all about. This is what closes the big sale, gets the beachfront house, fosters good health, brings spiritual fulfillment, and puts comfortable sums in the bank. Just learn to tell a wonderful feeling from an everyday downer one, and watch the magic happen. Swallowing glass. Feelings, those things we're all so terrified of if they happen to be negative, are nothing more than electromagnetic charges of energy that go zipping through our body, set off by our thoughts. The only reason we go to such lengths to avoid them is that some of those negative emotions don't feel so hot. We don't like the sensation they give us. So we stuff them way down deep where we think we don't have to deal with them anymore, and where, frankly, they're raising holy hell with our magnetics. For now, let's just look at the ones we're aware of that don't get buried, starting with our everyday feel-bad habit. That could mean anything from flatlining, which is our normal daily state of neither up nor down, just existing, to a little bit down, to rip-roaring rage. We feel bad when we think any kind of thought that doesn't have to do with joy, such as guilt, loneliness, anger, resentment, worry, doubt, frustration, stress, even mild concern. Those are all fear-based. Thoughts that vibrate within us at an extremely low frequency, which is why they don't feel good. They are totally contrary to our high-frequency natural state. On the other hand, we feel good when we think thoughts that have to do with joy, such as appreciation, delight, pleasure, exhilaration, enthusiasm, reverence, awe, gratitude, love, all those warm fuzzies we relish when they happen. The reason those thoughts feel so good to us is because they vibrate at a high frequency, which most definitely is our natural state. No one can swallow cut-up glass and expect to feel good, yet that's what we do all day with our somber thoughts and feelings. We literally bathe ourselves in unconscious negative energy, from our own thoughts as well as everyone else's, which is totally contrary to our natural state of joy, which is why we rarely ever feel pumped up. We can't. Not as long as we're swimming all day in the low-frequency energy that we think is perfectly normal. So it becomes a vicious circle. Both our conscious and unconscious day-to-day feelings, that we think are normal, are sending unnatural negative vibrations throughout our body, which make us feel down, or blah, or as though we are simply existing, or like we have no feelings at all. Since all of those feelings are various degrees of low-frequency energy flow, and since all we're putting out are low-frequency vibes, then low-frequency, second-rate events are all we're attracting back. Which makes us feel down, which puts out more low-frequency vibrations, which pulls in more low-frequency circumstances, which makes us feel down. And around and around and around we go. Pat smiles. A couple of years ago in one of my weekend seminars on the law of attraction, there was an attractive 35-ish gal, I'll call her Pat, who just couldn't seem to stop being nice. Goody two-shoes nice. She complimented me on my clothes. I wear sweatshirts and jeans with holes at these seminars. She drooled verbal gratuities all over the cook. She was forever praising the participants for their heartfelt candor as they would correlate certain unpleasant happenings of their past to their bummed-out feelings of their present. For someone so overtly sunny, this gal was getting on my low vibrational nerves. After the first night's session was through and we had had our before-bed snack, Pat left the dining room, walked right into the big cigarette ash can placed outside the door, and fell flat on her face into a puddle of mud. She got up all cheery. Something was definitely wrong here. The next day it was Pat as usual. Compliments, praise, perpetual little smiles, and more accidents. She bumped into a chair in the dining room, spilling her fresh cup of coffee into someone's plate. She swallowed a candy the wrong way during someone's truly poignant story and had to be given the punch in the stomach maneuver, after which she couldn't seem to stop nodding her appreciation toward the bear of a guy who had saved her life. Pat wasn't an accident waiting to happen. She was a perpetual accident in progress. Finally, with prodding from the participants, Pat's story began to unfold. She came from a deeply religious family in which being good was what you did. The dictator of this stern way of life was her dad, who was also the minister of their church and a third-generation minister at that. So this show only goodness to the world, no matter how you feel, was so deeply ingrained in her by her dad. Pat truly believed this to be appropriate behavior. And it might have been, had it not been for the strong inner feelings of animosity that went along with her smiles. I used to hate having to be so proper and flattering all the time, especially to my elders, she said quietly during one session. Complimenting adults terrified me, but I had to do it. All the time, I had to do it. Pat's current life was this side of a mess. Though she had a college degree, she never moved beyond her entry level wherever she worked. She'd already been through 3 marriages and had enough accident claims to have her auto insurance cancelled. Her life had been more extreme than most, yet most of us could relate in one way or another. With her permission, we began to dissect her life as it related to her feelings. The results were stunning. It didn't take long for everyone to see how Pat's long-standing yet hidden feelings of confusion, hostility, and unworthiness had created a constant outpouring of very low vibrations with every compliment or smile she emitted. And she got it. In no time at all, she could see the direct correlation between what she had been flowing out and the results she had been magnetizing back into her life. Yuck out, yuck back, someone said. And she could see it clearly. Pat has kept in touch and told me of a new excitement in her life that is bringing her more rich rewards than she ever dared to dream. She has stopped trying to please everyone except herself, and has even ventured into offering a few criticisms now and then. She tells me she smiles only when she means it, and compliments only when she feels sincere. Today Pat is head of her own substance abuse recovery house. She's been with the same guy now for 2 years and hasn't so much as tapped another car. What we flow out is what we get back. Pat has had to work hard at changing her negative outflow, and while the negative emotions are not 100% gone, they never will be for any of us. Her predominant feelings of appreciation and gratitude, as opposed to feeling hopeless and luckless, have irrevocably transformed her life. The feelings we flow out become the tangibles we attract back. It's that simple. What makes feelings? Most of us have this crazy notion that we just sort of popped into this place quite by accident. Not hardly. We each came with a partner, this profoundly loving, exclusive chaperone whom we have, by and large, chosen to ignore. Call it inner being, higher self, I really dislike that one, expanded self, God self, or Mickey Mouse. Call it what you will, it's that greater part of us we're attached to that comes with the physical package. We can't be physical without it, for it's the source that keeps us alive, not living, perhaps, but alive. It is the pure positive energy of all that is, of which we are a part, the pure positive energy of life, which we are. Didn't you ever feel like there's some secret part of you that knows everything there is to know but just doesn't stick its head out? There is. It's that broader, older, wiser part, that vastly expanded extension of each of us that communicates with us in the only way it knows, through feelings. This expansion of ourselves that we came in with vibrates solely in a place which to us would feel like nirvana, and then some. WAAAY up there on the frequency scale. In fact, that part of us wouldn't know a vibration of lack or stress if it tripped over it in a black hole. But if we were vibrating that fast, we wouldn't stay physical, so we get as close as we can with the high vibrations of plain old joy, exhilaration, appreciation, elation, all those luxurious sensations that equate to happiness and well-being. Which is why it feels so good to feel good. You're vibrating closer to your real self. You and your non-physical self are in sync, plugged in together in that marvelous high frequency and all it has to offer. So when we feel good, we're vibrating faster, the way we were designed to do. We're no longer recycling any of the low vibrational fear-based stuff we live in that's so utterly foreign to the body. We're in that space where we can get answers and guidance, because now we're vibrationally walking hand in hand with the self we really are. By the same token, if we're sending out vibrations of lack or worry, the kind that make us feel anything other than joyful, we've pulled the plug from that unseen partner, and now everything is working at crossed purposes, and feels that way. It's like giving a youngster a big, fluffy new teddy bear, then snatching it away. Youngster isn't going to feel too hot about being disconnected from the thing which gives it so much joy. So when we feel good, we're connected, vibrating closer to the higher frequency of our expanded selves. When we feel bad, or down, or not much of anything, we're disconnected and flowing the foreign vibrations of low-frequency negativity throughout our bodies. In other words, if it's not about joy, it is always negative. If it's not about joy, we've swallowed cut glass. The good news is we don't have to watch our thoughts every second of every day to get our lives back on track. Man, we'd go bonkers. All we have to do is stay tuned to how we're feeling, up or down, good or bad. Ours from the gut. A somewhat extreme but amusing example of keeping track of our feelings came from a gal who was a session singer. I don't remember her name, only that she looked as if she'd been around the block more than a few times. We were recording a group of songs a friend of mine had written for an elementary educational program my company was producing. I had never done any studio recording before, so everything that was going on was new and exciting. I was having a ball. Our arranger had suggested we get some session singers for this one song. Since I didn't have a clue what he was talking about, he explained that they were a small group of singers who could create background harmony in a style that would fit most any song, giving a fuller, more professional sound to the piece. Amazing. How could a group of people, who didn't know the music, who had no idea what the program was about, create a sound amongst themselves that would mesh with the theme and music? Oh well, I guessed I'd find out. When the troupe of 3 arrived, I was doubtful. They were too quick. They each looked at the music individually, chatted a bit, nodded to each other, then said, "Okay Sam, we're ready anytime you are." Huh? How could they be? No practice. No chatting with the arranger. No asking me, the boss. The intro started, the soloist was at the mic, and our session singers were behind her with their own mic, presenting this sort of nonchalant confidence. After our soloist did her first bit, one of the session singers jumped right in to take over the next verse. We were all startled, but my God, it sounded terrific. Then the 3 of them were humming, then ahhing, then oohing, then mming, and then all of a sudden singing the words in harmony right behind the soloist. I was dumbfounded. Our arranger smiled. My friend who had written the song was open-mouthed. Our soloist was elated. The guys in the booth were smiling and shaking their heads. And the one session gal who had looked like worn-out leather now looked 20 years younger. One take and we had it. Just one take. Impossible. Incredible. As the singers were about to leave, I went up to the older gal who was obviously the leader and asked her how they did that. How could they jump in, not knowing the music, and create a better feel than what we had ever envisioned in the first place? And in one take? Oh, it's no biggie, hon, the gal said, in her almost bass voice. We've been doing this for so long, we know what oohs go where. And the harmony's no problem. The only thing that's ever a problem is my gut. Say again. Well, if it's all fitting together, I feel like I'm sailing to the moon. My gut feels all excited like when I'm streaking down a roller coaster. But if I don't have that feeling, we can do 100 takes. And not one will ever be right, even if it sounds okay to the producer. It just won't be right. It's gotta be that joy, that's all. Just pure joy from my gut. Then I know we've got it. This time, it came right away on the first take, and I knew we were done. So did everybody else. It was just pure joy, and I could feel it in every cell of my body. I always do. You know what I mean? No, I surely did not know what she meant, though I do now. This rough and tumble gal had no idea that what she was experiencing was the actual vibrational shift from low to high frequency energy surging throughout her body. Nor did she create it on purpose, as we'll learn to do. All she knew was that she could feel something very special happen inside her when her group clicked in, and she rightly called the sensation pure joy. Now granted, the kind of feel good, feel bad awareness I've been talking about may be a whole lot more subtle than hers, but unlike her joy sensations, which only happened when everything outside of her jibed just right, we're going to learn to click in joy at will. Original intent, our treasure map of desire. As self-serving as it may sound, we came here to this blessed planet with only one intent: to find ways to feel good most of the time, not just some of the time. That singular intent, to feel good, is built into each and every one of us, and if we'll just pay attention to it, we'll have a personally engraved treasure map to happiness. Here's why. When we're having good feelings about anything, it means we're on track with our original intent: to feel good, to be happy, and to vibrate way up there. It means we're on track towards something we've long wanted or even recently wanted. Either way, having it come our way will make us happy. We're on track towards something we believe will enhance our life, therefore make us feel better, therefore raise our frequencies, therefore bring us closer to our natural state, which is the whole challenge of our being here. So here's the key. Original intent always manifests as desire. Desire for anything that will get our passion going, be it a new red Ferrari or a desire to live in harmony with all life. It might show up as a new desire for a clean garage, to learn Western dancing, or to run an old-fashioned hardware store in the country. Or it could be an old desire to live by the beach, or learn to play the piano. Either way, it's a desire, something we want. Where we get into such trouble with our desires, though, is the hang-ups we have about them, because, depending on the nature of the desire, society has a way of calling us selfish if we pursue them. Yet if we're really following those inner urges, which will make us happy simply because we believe they will, we're following our original intent to have fun while we're here and learn whatever it is we came here to learn in the vibration of joy, not struggle. That's hardly self-serving. But society's pressure is unrelenting, causing us all too often to succumb to our shoulds by heading us off in the opposite direction of our happiness-making desires. Now we're off course, which is, sadly, where most of us live most of the time. We've veered away from our original intent by vibrating in the low frequency of social conscious fear-based stuff. While that frequency might not cause us to feel rotten, we surely won't be bubbling over with merriment. We couldn't be. One frequency is a downer, social consciousness, and the other is an upper, original intent. They will never mix. So now if we stay on that off-course path, disallowing our own joy, demanding altruism of ourselves, depriving ourselves of our original intent, we've joined the multitudes righteously following their hated low-frequency shoulds, instead of their high-frequency joys. Needless to say, the results of that kind of relentless energy flow on this planet have not been pretty. Red flag, green flag. Let's go back to your wanting a new car. And let's say the car you have right now is in pretty good shape, so you don't have any pressing need to have new wheels, just a deep desire. In fact, for as long as you can remember, you've had this passion for a spiffy little red convertible with wire wheels. If you live in Alaska and can't stand red, play the game with me anyhow. But where in the hell is it? You've had this desire for ages. You've been thinking and thinking about it off and on for years, so how come it's not parked in your garage? Here's why. You're zipping along on the freeway one day, and sure enough, there's your dream car right in front of you. You groan from envy because you think you can't afford it. The yearning starts. You look at the car with great longing and shake your head in a, man, wouldn't it be nice, kind of discouragement. Instead of feeling all jazzed at seeing your dream car, you're feeling sunk, accompanied with that knee-jerk reaction of, oh hell, forget it. Which is precisely why it's not parked in your garage. You're focusing on the lack of your car rather than the joy of having it. You're sending out such a bunch of negative feel-bad vibrations, your expanded self is waving big red flags and shouting, hey, friend, you're feeling snarly because you're focusing on the fact that you don't have the car. Keep thinking like that and you're sure to get more of the same, a whole lot more no car. If you really want the thing, start feeling good when you think about it, then watch what happens. You've just been given a red flag warning in the form of a gloomy feeling called negative emotion. The warning says you're focusing on something you don't want, the lack of having the car, all because of your perception that you can't afford it. That downer feeling is a red flag, your clue that the way you're flowing your energy, thinking and feeling about it, is guaranteed to keep your car away. So now all you have to do is change the way you think and feel about that car, your desire, and it's yours. We flow this sort of downer feeling energy out from us every day, which is why we've gotten precious little of what we ever hoped to have. We see something we've wanted in life, which could be anything from an expensive red car to understanding quantum physics, and from our position of lack, meaning that we don't have it and aren't real sure we can ever get it, our focus and feelings are squarely on what we don't have. So that's all we'll ever magnetize in. More, don't have. The law of physics never changes. We get what we focus on. Yearning for, wishing for, longing for, even hoping for are not activities of focusing on what we want. They're just negative thoughts that vibrate from a place of discouragement, a place of lack born from the pessimistic beliefs that we'll probably never have what we want. And with those kinds of feelings flowing out, we won't. We get what we focus on the lack of something, and that's what we're guaranteed to get, because what the universe gives us, in every moment of every day, corresponds precisely with what we are vibrating. The bottom line is this: if we're not feeling up when we think about something, we're flowing some degree of negative emotion, a red flag warning telling us to pay attention to what we're sending out. In our playful example of your red car, if what you're feeling when you think about it isn't giving you some kind of emotional high, some sort of goosebumpy turn on, some kind of neat buzz, some kind of warm fuzzy, some kind of rush, or some kind of delight in any form, then you're feeling and projecting just the opposite: negative vibrations from your frustration over not having the car. From our focus on lack, we can never attract the opposite. To attract whatever it is we want into our life, we have to change our focus, which will change our feelings, which will change our vibrations. Getting your car. Okay, let's get this snafu turned around now so that red car can be yours. Back to our original formula. 1. You identify what you don't want. You don't want any more of not having the red car. 2. You identify what you do want. That's easy. 3. You get into the feeling place of what you want. That's where we are now. Then 4. You expect, listen, and allow it to happen. Now, instead of wishing or yearning for the car when you see it or think about it, which only makes you feel lousy anyhow, start appreciating that little sweetie. Appreciate its style, its wheels, its interior, its speed, its ego appeal. That is most surely going to make you feel, and vibrate, a whale of a lot faster and higher than focusing on the lack of it all. And it's only the high vibration that will reel it in, not the low. Let's keep going. As you bathe in the all-encompassing pride of your soon-to-be acquisition, and drink in the opulent new car smells, and mirror-like finish, and out-of-this-world sound system, all of your increasingly magnetic vibrations are totally positive, which means you're sending out a powerful new signal that's creating an unobstructed pathway for your desire to magnetize itself into your world. In fact, with all those up vibes you're sending out, you're a veritable walking high-frequency magnet, feeling really good, flying green flags of feel good all over the place. Your feelings are in agreement with your original intent to have fun. You've stopped attracting more of what you don't want and are now seriously attracting what you do want. Never mind how you're going to pay for it, that's not your job to figure out. As long as you stop focusing on the fact that it's not parked in your garage yet, your spiffy little red dream is definitely on its way. Negative feelings, which come from thoughts of don't have, can't have, or never will have, are simply not in agreement with your original intent. And neither are your shoulds. It's so simple. Put glum feelings out, and you're going to get glum circumstances back. If, on the other hand, you allow yourself to be turned on by thinking about your dream car, and insist to yourself that things are now in the process of turning around, no matter what you may see in front of you to the contrary, then those positive thoughts will ultimately magnetize in your desires. They must. It's the physics of the universe. Remember, it's the feelings that will do it, not the thoughts alone. It's the feelings that create the magnetism and the vibration in the waves we send out. It's the feelings that come from our thoughts. Good old media. A few nights ago while I was fixing dinner, I switched on the local TV news and almost threw up before I had even tasted a bite of food. First came the report of the latest outbreak of some weird strain of flu, so exotic, in fact, that it was doubtful the most powerful flu shots could defeat it. In blah blah town, 1,500 miles away, it's been reported that 3 out of 5 residents have been severely stricken with this uncontrollable new virus. Terrific. Now probably 4 out of 5 watching the show will start focusing their fears and don't want emotions on this tacky little bug, which will absolutely ensure its growth and make it ripe for being sucked into anyone with a matching fearful frequency. What might have been nothing more than a few sniffles around town without the TV report is now plainly going to be a mess. But that was only the first part of the local evening news. Next, so help me, this is a true story, was a report on a new incident of hamburger food poisoning discovered outside the city, and the concern was being voiced about the recovery of the children now being hospitalized. Since the last time this happened, some of the youngsters didn't make it. Oh good. Now we'll have thousands of parents waving big red flags, flowing fearful charges of negative vibrations, like terrified, to that one poor little piece of bacteria until it and all the sad events that get sucked in with it, that everyone wanted to avoid, will blow up into reality. It did. Half a dozen deaths were attributed to that bacteria within a month. By this time I was getting mad, and starting to realize that my own feelings were hardly of a joyous nature. Right out loud I stormed, okay, expanded self, I hear you. This ain't making me feel good. I'll turn the full thing off. But not before the last item I heard was about an elderly woman who had just been found raped and murdered. By that time I was furious, feeling awful, and wondering just how many elderly women would get it in the next few days through events ignorantly magnetized into their reality by focusing their own titanic fears on what they wanted most to avoid. We hear it all the time from our media: another bombing, another arson, another rash of some awful bug. So everybody focuses on the awfulness of the happening, which just serves to magnetize in more of the same. Did they have guns in school, and gang rapes, and buildings being blown up, and serial arsonists in 1865? No, because they didn't have the media to create the focus to cause the vibrations to bring it about en masse. Instead, they had newspapers and posters about their train robbers and bank robbers, so what they got more of was train robberies and bank robberies. Trust me, the law of attraction was just as active in Billy the Kid's time as it is today, because it's the fundamental law of creation throughout the universe. Focus with repeated intense emotion on something we don't want, or do want, and sooner or later that something is going to be in our lap. The 18-wheeler syndrome. Of course, there aren't two kinds of energy, one that makes us feel good, and one that makes us feel rotten. But there are varying degrees of feel-good vibrations and feel-bad vibrations to any thought we send out. We'll call them positive energy and negative energy, even though it's all the same, just vibrating differently. Every time we think of anything, we're flowing some kind of positive or negative energy, feeling, toward whatever it is we're thinking about, and the litany never changes. As we think, we feel. As we feel, we vibrate. As we vibrate, we attract. Then we get to live the results. But how do those so-called results really get to us? What's the routine that causes us to step into something we've been thinking about? In your young and reckless days, did you ever set out for some dumb and stupid fun by driving too close to the back end of an 18-wheeler? Tuck the nose of your car right up to a big truck's rear end and I guarantee you'll get the picture fast. You can take your foot off the gas pedal, lean back and relax, and be sucked right along to the truck's destination. I'm hardly advocating such moronic behavior, but the principle of attraction is the same. Two things are going on each time we think seriously about something. First is the vibration that is set up from the feeling the thought evokes, happy, sad, etc. Second is the activation by our emotions of little specks of thought I call thought particulates. Once these magnetic specks are activated by our feelings, they are instantly programmed to magnetize in accord with whatever it was we were vibrating. So we think about something, and think about it some more, and talk about it, and mull it over the next day, and the next until pretty soon there are so many of those same frequency thoughts flitting around out there, they start clumping together like dough balls. The more thoughts we send out of the same kind, the bigger these clumps grow until they become expanding clusters of awesome magnetic power big enough to form their own immensely powerful whirlpools of magnetic energy, either positive, happy, or negative, bummer, in nature. These power centers, vortexes of monumental magnetic energy, now draw into their whirling centers anything and everything of similar vibrations, including you, which will eventually cause events to happen. Before you know it, you've been sucked right into the middle of some happening you initiated with your recurring thoughts and feelings. It might be the thing you were focusing on, or it might be something completely different, yet made up of the same vibrations. Although we can certainly flow feelings without thought, in our example it's the repetitive thinking that has set up the repetitive feelings that have started the magnetic ball rolling. The critical point to remember here is that the more we think about anything, whether it's something we want in our lives or something we don't want, the faster we're going to magnetize it into our experience. That, in a nutshell, is the universal law of attraction: that which is like unto itself is drawn. The power of you. We've been raised in a society that has been flowing energy helter-skelter for countless centuries, being unconsciously sucked along in back of a whole lot of 18-wheelers that were not headed anywhere near where we wanted to go. There are no victims here, just flowers of energy. In our case, flowing right into the unfortunate forgetfulness that we've always had the power to create our lives and our world however we damn well wanted it to be. Instead, from our lack of understanding energy flow, we became masterfully adept at creating by default. Although the process of becoming a deliberate creator is extraordinarily simple, it's not always easy, for the concept is far and away too foreign to us. The idea that we've been creating our world by feeling alone, whether manufactured from thought or from ongoing emotions, will most likely be highly suspect at first. To realize that we have always had the power to do this creation thing anytime we choose, in any manner we want, could certainly be disheartening and even beyond our willingness to accept, for a while. Nevertheless, physics is physics, magnetism is magnetism, and both tell us that which is like unto itself is drawn. Whether it's a nebula, a black hole, or a human being wading through physical existence, that's the way it works. But we don't have to chew on all this newness by ourselves, for we are not alone on this ride. We each have a profoundly loving partner of incomprehensible knowledge, beauty, and power, a greatly expanded self, an inner, outer being to whom we are irrevocably joined for this physical ride, a being whose devoted support never leaves us, and whose guidance is as tangible as the last emotions we just experienced, those precious jewels we call feelings, the magic genie of all creation. Chapter 3. No, not that. Step 1. I was driving down the freeway one day listening to a favorite Neil Diamond tape, not focused on much of anything, when I realized I had one of those funny little knots in my stomach, the kind that feels like there's a serious hole in your gut with a not so gentle breeze sailing through. Something was off base somewhere, and good old expanded self was sending me a clear signal to pay attention to my feelings. But since nothing came to mind, I decided to ignore it. Big mistake. I let my thoughts wander, paying little attention to the very obvious red flag I was feeling. Sure enough, my meandering thoughts wandered right into one of the loans I was in the process of closing. At that time I was running my own mortgage company, a business that finds the best interest rates for people who want to buy or refinance their homes, and then arranges for the funding and ultimate closing of the loan. We were almost ready to close this young couple's loan when some sticky problem showed up I wasn't sure I could solve. That in itself was bad enough so near the finish line, but the worst of it was that these kids were really counting on this loan to end some of their grisly financial troubles. So here's my focus 100% on what I do not want to happen: the loan to fall through. I've got red flags of negative feelings flying all over the place, a little dread, a little guilt, a large helping of gloom, and I'm ignoring them. The results of that negative energy flow were immediate. I had about 1 more mile of music before the tape player started eating my Jonathan Livingston Seagull cassette. About 2 miles after that I was squeezed right into a 4-lane traffic jam from daytime roadwork. About 20 minutes and another mile after that, I get rear-ended, just rear-bumped, by some dude farther away in Madland than I was. About 10 minutes after that, I spilled the rest of my coffee all over a file of original loan papers. And when I finally got out of that mess and made it to a telephone, the lender told me the loan had fallen through. Considering how I had been flowing my energy, I was hardly surprised. I knew exactly what had happened, what a dork I'd been, and exactly what I had to do, fast. What had happened? What had caused that whole chain of pesky events? Was it just coincidence, a nasty string of unlucky circumstances? Not on a bet. It's how every single one of us has been creating our days since nursery school, focusing on all the stuff around us we didn't like, didn't want, and feeling helpless as we watched it get worse. We've been living a life we felt was largely at the mercy of forces outside of ourselves over which we had no control. I mean, how many of us would take credit for having a lousy boss, being robbed, getting laid off, or catching the flu? And how many of us would not blame the government, or the economy, or our families, or the system, for all that's wrong in our lives? Oh sure, we'll take credit for some of it, the things we've set out to do, and did. But would we honestly be willing to take responsibility for every last thing that's ever happened to us? Not likely.